Hi, I'm Chuck.
And Deb.
And welcome to Biker Life Radio. We're so truly grateful and thankful that you've joined us today. We've got a very unique show lined up just for you.
Biker Life Radio is for those who ride and those who inspire to ride. We are here to reveal the truth behind the motorcycle mystique and bring real-life stories of the biker lifestyle.
All right. Fantastic, Deb. Thanks. Well, why don't we acknowledge one of our sponsors today?
Okay. Today's show sponsor is Tony and Guy Hairdressing Academy out of Colorado Springs, Colorado. So if you are ready to put your feet in the saddle, chins to the wind, knees in the breeze, then let's get rolling.
Well, we are going to get it rolling. And we're going to actually take where we left off last week. Is that right? Is that what you got planned? Because you're in charge, as usual.
Yes, we're going to talk a little bit about group riding, a little bit more because, as I thought through the process of group riding and all of the things that we talked about on last week's show, I didn't want our listeners and audience to leave without some true hands-on practical things that they can do in group riding if it's how they choose to ride.
All right. Well, I'm going to say have at it. We usually do talk about a little bit about what's happened at the beginning of the show. Not much has happened. We've been busy working. It's gotten hot and muggy.
It is hot
I'm telling
and
you,
humid.
man, it's just crazy hot and muggy. It's like
rainy season is here, and that for us is just takes everything to a whole new level when it comes to humidity in our beautiful Florida climate. Yeah. So we are the tropics.
and you get to be the tough one. While I'm sitting in the nice, cool AC or out for a leisurely ride, you're actually outside on the what? What is that called?
The range.
The range.
You're out on the range.
So you've been out on the range. This is going to be your third week in the row that you're out on the range.
Yes.
Helping people do what, Deb?
I am a Harley-Davidson rider coach for the Riding Academy here at Rossiter's Harley-Davidson in the beautiful Sarasota area of Florida. And I have the opportunity to actually help people receive their endorsement and new riders learn how to ride. So I absolutely love that. It's one of the things I am most passionate about. And to kind of back it up, this past week's class, as I mentioned, we are in rainy season. So it's so funny because I check the weather usually when we start the class on a Thursday. And of course, everyone that is new to riding asks, so if it rains, are we still going to ride? And I go, absolutely.
I know how to ride in the rain.
Rain or shine. And this last class they were wonderful because they were so optimistic about riding in the rain. And they said, you know what, if we can learn and start in the rain, then nothing's going to shake us.
So true.
And I thought that was a great perspective on the day because we went nonstop rain from the minute we arrived at the range until after we had gotten off. And we were all pretty saturated. So it's true. They can ride in just about anything. And the nice thing was that the next day, when it came to actually getting the certification and going through the test process, we had no rain. It was fabulous. So they did all of the hard work in the rain and then had to actually put their skills to the test. And it was a beautiful day. Still a little warm, but not too bad.
And just in case people don't know, Deb, describe sort of how the setup works. Like today, you're going to be given a classroom? How does it work?
Correct. There are several different ways the class can be run, but how we run it is we start off the first evening as classroom time. There is an extensive classroom portion to this. And then Saturday morning, we actually will meet out at the range. About halfway through the day, we'll head back to the dealership, finish up the classroom work, take a beautiful written test that's nothing to be intimidated about. And then Sunday, we get to head back to the range for more practice riding. And then at the end of that is when they get to test with their skill test.
Very good.
So
there you go. Anybody that's thinking about it, there you go. You have an idea what to expect. And they also feed you at certain times. I know, isn't that one of the things that also comes up? People always ask, well, do I have to bring
food? What about drinks? All that sort of stuff. Yeah. So at my particular dealership, we're very sensitive to the weather and the hot weather. And so we want to make sure that we help to hydrate all of our students. So there's water provided and there is Gatorade provided. But, you can bring staff. We take breaks often throughout the program in order to make sure that we keep a well-balanced program and everything's very organized and it's just a great class environment. And so people can bring stuff to snack on in between. But then our dealer provides a beautiful, wonderful lunch of pizza to kind of get all those carbs filled back up. Yeah. And so then we finish up the classroom time, end out for the day. And I can tell you that most of the time, especially those that haven't ridden in a while and or new to riding, don't realize how difficult the concept and idea of riding really is. It's a very physical activity, and most people don't realize that.
Well, that's true.
Nothing else to say about that. So, in the group riding concept, it does really, I'm going to kind of tie it back into group riding, because in group riding, I think that there's a lot more to consider, as we mentioned last week, than if you just go out and ride on your own. So a few things that I wanted to make sure that we talked about and got out regarding group riding, if we can shift gears and head that direction, is, the first thing is to make sure that you are ready for the ride, ready to ride, because, oftentimes you may have an end destination that's been discussed, but you may not necessarily the route that you're taking to get there. So I think the most important aspect of being ready to ride is making sure that you are completely fueled up. And good groups mention that. Other groups I know haven't been as forthcoming with that as a really great tip and idea. And we've even heard stories from some that have ran out of gas, RJ, while you're riding. And so I don't know about if it's in a group, but I know that was something that was recently mentioned to RJ, again, is that he didn't run out of gas in a group ride. So making sure that you're fueled and ready to go. But before you even get to the gas station, it's important that you do a thorough walkthrough of your motorcycle and make sure that it's ready for the road and ready for the ride. So checking out your tires, checking all of your fuels, checking your cables, checking all of your lights, and making sure that those are working.
Don't you have a code for that? I remember when I took a class that the Hog chapter put on, there was Come on. Do you know?
Come on.
I don't know. It's been a long
T-clocks.
T-clocks. Yeah, there you go.
That's the acronym.
I was close. At least I had the T part.
You had the first letter. Boy, I'm
Tires,
impressed.
what?
Tires, your now
I got you.
I know.
Now I tripped the rider coach up.
So it is your choke and your all of those things. I'm not perfect. I have
you don't have it memorized apparently.
No, well, I do, but I just went through it and now you threw me out. So
plus you're live, so you're like, what are you going to do?
Yep, deer in the headlights. So so making sure that you check all of your fluids, make sure that the motorcycle is truly ready to go for the ride. And the last thing is make sure that you have all of your gear. So a few things that we always try and make sure, not always, we do always try to make sure that we have on the ride with us is a couple of bottles of water. Make sure we stay hydrated because we're not sure exactly where we're going to go. And if it looks like there's rain in the forecast, make sure you have your rain gear. If there's a chance you might be at night, it may be a different pair of glasses, goggles, or eyewear that goes along with it. So gloves, if you wear gloves when you ride, just, preparing and making sure that you're ready with all the gear that you may have a need for.
I think you missed one important thing. At least it's really important to me.
Okay.
You got to have an empty bladder.
That's true. Absolutely.
You got to be prepared. And that's always, for me, that's really important. I don't want to get on my bike and then I have to go and I got to have, a whole group, or I got to pull off the side. The sweep pulls over, wonder what's going on. But that reminds me of a story, Mikey, but we'll just keep moving on.
Yeah. We have lots of stories like that with Mikey.
Had to go.
So,
here it is. Mikey had to go, but Mikey took off in front of the group. He hightailed it. Then he went off on an exit, and then he caught back up to us. That's a long story. That's the short of it there.
That's a fun story that I love. But yeah, really that's a great point, is, making sure that you physically are ready to ride. So you've got the hydration, you've got the dehydration and the emptiness of your bladder, and things are all taken care of. And just ready to roll. So that's important for the group, and making sure when everyone shows up and is ready, it makes everything smoother. So the other thing the part number 2 or key number 2, I think, is that you're familiar with group riding. And as we talked briefly, there is a way of communicating in group riding. So you think about 20 motorcycles riding in a pack. How does motorcycle number 1 communicate all the way back to motorcycle number 2 that there's an obstacle in the roadway? Just as a perfect example. So we do a lot of pointing either with fingers, depending upon the side of the motorcycle it's on, or you may point with a foot and stick a leg out to tell. And then the idea is that rider number 1 starts the signal and it slowly works its way back, just like an inchworm, all the way back to the back rider. And
Does it
that's
always
how.
happen that way?
Oh, no, it doesn't
Huh?
always. In the perfect riding world, of course, that it would. However, that's not always the case. So,
What if I'm afraid to take my hand off the handlebar?
boy, we've heard that before. It depends. If
I don't
you're
think it's somebody being
actually
afraid. They just want to be
as
be
safe as they can, sure, and
Yeah.
that makes perfectly good sense.
And
So,
if somebody's not comfortable doing that, I guess that's acceptable, because what do we talk about? Ride your own ride, right?
that is absolutely
So when
true.
it comes down to it, no matter what the situation is, you're riding your own ride.
Yes.
And that's what I like about it. I'm going to ride my own ride.
Right.
If that means I speed in between people and go around.
No, now you're not being safe with the group. Come
yeah,
on,
that's
you got to
right.
think about that too.
That's not riding my own ride and being safe.
Being safe. You got to make sure you're safe. And so the ride your own ride is a great point of that, but knowing a little bit about hand signals. And what I'm going to do is make sure that we pull together a basic hand signal format to post up with this in either YouTube or on our Facebook Biker Life Radio page. So come on out if you're not familiar with those
Put a link up
hand signals. Yep, we'll certainly put something up there for you. And make sure that you're there early enough to attend the pre-ride safety briefing, because that's when that communication really happens to the group as a whole in most circumstances. And you may want to know who your road captain or ride leader is, depending upon what they call them. And then also you may want to be familiar with who the sweep tail gunner, whoever's bringing up the back of the pack in case you may need them in a certain situation. So, and then if you're new to the group, just be sure and let them know that, because some groups actually have positioning for someone that's new or less comfortable with group riding. So, it's open in communication, and by all means, let everybody know.
All right. Now, is that what you have? Is that all that you have?
No, but I think we may need to take a quick break.
And what? You got more to go over?
I've got a few more things. Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Well, if this is a good time,
I think it's a good time.
We'll go ahead and take a quick break. Just stay with us. We'll be right back. And thanks a lot.
Hi, Rider Coach Deb here. Just wanted to take a quick minute and share with you something that I have found that is a phenomenal safety item that every rider that rides with a helmet will want to have for their own safety and protection on the road. It's called the inVIEW wireless brake and turn signal light. It's designed to attach to your helmet, as I mentioned, and it syncs up directly with your brake lights and turn signals so that the car drivers that just seem to miss the signals that we put on will now be able to see it because it's right at eye level on your helmet. They're designed with ultra bright LEDs. As I mentioned, it is programmable and it works in conjunction with your brake lights and turn signals from the motorcycle. It's very easy to install and simple to use. So if you would like to find out more and get information about the inVIEW, be sure and visit chuckndebshow.com/inVIEW, and in the ordering process, put in coupon code bikerlife. Again, chuckndebshow.com/inVIEW, and utilize coupon code BIKERLIFE to get a great discount on the inVIEW.
You left off, so you have a spot, Deb.
I do.
Because I'm like, I'm just like me, flying by the seat of my pants.
I know, you're great at that, and I am the organized one. So let's just keep this organization going.
Oh, that's right. No, I'm sorry. I'm flying on your coattails.
No, you're not.
Yes, I am.
So
I like it there, remember.
So I think the third and final point that I wanted to make about group riding, and you had alluded to this earlier, is be sure and ride your own ride. And I think that that's easy said. So when someone says ride your own ride, what does that mean to you?
Yeah, well, I know what the technical meaning of, and that's what I would come to say is, don't ride above your experience level. So ride what's comfortable, basically, to you.
Okay.
That's why, I'm going to reserve my comments.
So, I love that you said that, because it is all about risk offset and, your skill abilities compared to the risk that you're willing to take. And so as a new rider, sometimes that is, a little bit bigger safety gap. And that's what we tend to find with newer riders, is that they like to just hold back from being real close in the pack. And it takes a while for you to learn and know how another rider is going to react and be impacted in the group riding concept, and know how they're going to behave in front of you. So throw me all off.
Well, sorry, but that's just part of what happens.
I know. So that's what I wanted to kind of bring into finalizing everything, is making sure that you ride your own ride and be comfortable with that. And that's why that communication with your group, with the ride leader, as well as the sweep, and as a new rider to the group, is important to let them know. And the other thing with that is making sure that you don't focus on the rider just in front of you. I think we talked about that briefly last week. It's called target fixation. And so, that we talk about in the riding world is that there's this 2-second scan, a 4-second scan, and then finally your 12-second scan, and making sure that even in a group, you're not just fixated on the motorcycle directly right in front of you or one beside you, that you're kind of keeping an eye on the entire pack in front of you, as well as watching your mirrors behind you so that the rider behind you is not target fixing on you. So those were the 3 key components I wanted to be sure and talk about regarding group riding and get that out to our listeners.
And then we did talk about last week as well as your lane. I think that's important.
Yes.
And just keeping that lane open. And maybe that helps with the target fixation. So if you're riding, maybe just shift lanes a little bit, maybe with inside your lane, maybe just go back and forth to make sure everybody's paying attention behind you, that kind of thing.
Sure. That's a great idea.
It's whatever you can do to make it all safe. And while we're on this subject, I'd like to tell a story about a ride that we actually took. And we left out of the Tampa area and we were heading up to Jacksonville. I don't know how many miles that is, Deb. That's a lot of miles.
It was a lot of miles. Yeah, it was a good day's ride.
What's that, 5 hours or something like that?
Probably
good
yeah.
Day. So we started off in the rain, if I remember correctly.
You would know. I don't recall.
Maybe not. I don't really recall, but anyway, we ended up in the rain all day. Actually, I think we did go for it was all day in the rain.
Yep.
So, and we were taking some back roads to go across the state. And this is a funny story, all right? It's one of our favorite stories. And there's this guy named Izzy. We hope Izzy's still around. We haven't seen him in a while. And Izzy actually was on the ride with us, and it rained, and we all had our gear on. And Izzy actually bought a poncho. And so he had his poncho on, but not only did he just have his poncho, Izzy wanted to make sure that he was safe.
Yes. Well, wait, you got to stop right there. Think about a poncho on a motorcycle and it's flapping and all that stuff's going on. So think about a poncho on a motorcycle. But anyway,
Izzy's a great guy, by the way.
He is a good guy.
So he puts this poncho on and we're all going down the road and he's up in front of us, right?
Right.
And he also painted because he was so safety conscious. He wanted to make sure that people saw him in the rain. So he painted it yellow. So I'll tell you right now, he got the nickname Big Bird right then and there. Yes. I don't remember who named him that, but he was Big Bird. This big yellow thing going down the road, and it's pouring down rain. I mean, I'm not talking light. I mean, you can barely see in front of you.
Right.
And that's really important because, you have to understand the riding conditions when you ride. You're not going to you have to figure out where to look on the road in order for you to stay on the road. It can be quite dangerous. So a lot of times you got to really pay attention, find a spot on the road. I don't know what the pros would say. I would look for the white line on the side of the road,
right.
Or, know where your dotted lines are, depending on where you were in the staggered position. But let me go back to the story. So as we were riding, he had painted it. And as we rode, his paint came off his poncho
in flakes.
So not only when he got off the bike was he covered in yellow flakes,
everywhere.
So were a lot of the other people that were behind him.
Right.
The yellow paint was everywhere. So it was just a real funny story because it was one I would never forget. It was also one I remember. It was the first time I had my rings on, and me and my story in rings. Doesn't that happen?
You in rings, yeah. I don't know about that.
So because I was wearing my rings, and I wasn't wearing any gloves. Okay, so. I don't know. Maybe there's a lesson
Shame
learned.
on you.
Whatever. I'm going to do what I want to do. I'm going to ride my own ride.
Right. There you go.
So we stopped at a stoplight, going through this small town. And I reached down to something when my rings fell off because my skin shrank. Right?
Right. Because it was waterlogged. Yeah, all the waterlogged.
And so I think you did. You got off or something.
And got it.
And you got the ring for me. So I was able to save it. But I do have another ring story that I'll have to tell at a later time. So I just always liked that story. It's a fun story. So I'll power to you, Izzy. Hope all's going well out there.
So the other thing about Izzy and his yellow poncho is that as I talked about it flapping, he had bungeed it around him in order to keep it tight. But
he had a plan, though. He had a good plan.
He had it all worked out.
He had a plan before we got on the group ride.
And this was a great group ride because we were doing a bunch of visits of Harley dealers. And so I know when we got over to Jacksonville, that trip as well I think there were tornado warnings in the hotel that night. And so everybody was hunkering down and trying to figure out. And then the hotel we were in had completely solid glass fronts for windows on the front of each room. And so it was a ride and a trip we will probably never forget.
It's sort of opportune. I don't know what the correct word is, but with all the rain that's been happening later, it's rain season. And I'm thinking about taking a big ride here soon myself.
Yep.
And I got to prepare for the rain. And it's just something that happens when you ride. You've got to be able to ride in the rain. You got to be able to prepare for the rain. And we've got other rain stories. It's like rain. It's going to happen, guys.
Yep.
So just be prepared for it. And it's something that you can actually make it through as long as you're prepared to do so.
Right. But you're also going to probably head out on a ride this coming weekend too. So that would give you a chance to go through that preparedness.
There you go. That's a good idea. If you haven't ridden in the rain, ride in the rain.
Ride in the rain. So get out there and take a ride. And I know that you're going to have a great time when you get out there on the bike and do some fun stuff. So
it's actually not so bad riding in the rain. It's interesting. It's a different perspective. You get to be in a different space. You just have to pay more attention, of course.
Right.
But you still get to ride. You still get to enjoy the ride. And it's just different things, different stories, different things that happen to you so that you can, just experience life, I guess, at its fullest. Find true freedom #.
So here is a trivia question for you since we've gone down the rain path. When is the worst part to ride in the rain?
After the rain. After it's rained.
After it's rained.
That's my guess. Yeah, I think if I remember right, reading, believe it or not, I do read from time to time.
You do.
Is that the oil all gathers on the road?
Okay, so just after the rain has started is really what you're saying, right?
Well, it couldn't be either.
Well, no, because if it depends on the rain.
Because it could have washed off afterwards.
Right,
okay.
right.
So, no, I'm wrong. You're correct.
No, I just
no, but that's right.
I think you were thinking the right way. It just didn't come out quite right. So, just after the rain starts, when that water and oil begins to mix for the first time, usually in a heavy rain, then it's all washed away. So you don't have to worry about it. Yep. So, just something to think about. That's when it's going to be the most slippery.
There you go. Good thought. I think that's really important for people to know that haven't ridden before. And even if you have ridden before, you might not have known it.
It's a great reminder.
I think it's a point. It's like when it first starts to rain, that is that's coming to me is the most dangerous because the oil that's been sitting there is now mixing with the water.
Correct.
And until it's washed off, then I guess,
right.
Got to be careful.
That's right. Got to be careful. Always alert.
All right. Anything else? We tried to keep the show just to 20 minutes these days, just because we figure it's commute for you. And so right now, if we're going to sort of wrap things up, I guess, Deb.
Yep. I know that things, as we mentioned last week, we mentioned that things are starting to come back and from a motorcycle world perspective. And so a couple things I wanted to talk about is our university bike night here in our local area. We weren't able to attend, but I did hear that they had their first opening bike night last night. So
I wonder how it went.
Kudos. I'm curious. Yep. We might have to reach out to those that run that. And if you're listening, please let us know how it went. We'd love to hear that back from you. But I know that Sturgis is the biggest upcoming. Of course, Laconia's already been canceled and rescheduled for August, but Sturgis is coming up.
And that's in August?
It's in August. But everyone needs to listen for next Monday, June 15th, is when the council will be meeting in order to make the final decisions whether or not it will go on.
Because the council is the city, because it's the city who puts it on. Is that correct? Or something like that?
The mayor is the one that is really petitioning it too. So it may be the city council that's probably making it happen. But I know that the mayor was on, and I saw that clip.
Was he positive? What does he want to go on? He
absolutely.
That's what makes, that's a good income for those folks.
Right.
Obviously.
And I think that was his point is that, the groups that it's drawing to you that relies on that income every single year, but also, their primary focus right now is making sure that they do the safe distancing and keep everyone in a safe environment. And so, again, June 15th, which is next Monday, be sure and listen up and check and see, and we'll be sure and bring that to you next week as well, the outcome of the whole Sturgis conversation.
Hopefully Sturgis is on.
Yeah, I'd hope so too. So the one thing I want to...
It's the 80th, I think, isn't it?
It is the 80th. And I want to make sure that we end on a really awesome, positive note. And I don't think I have shared this on the podcast, that our Talamina rally totals are in. I know I shared it with our Facebook group. And you know what? They blew the doors off this. So I'm just going to, if I've mentioned it before, I'm just going to mention it again. It is worth mentioning again. You got to give Neil his
kudos, don't you?
Absolutely. So the Talamina rally, cruising for St. Jude. First of all, they have already opened up registration for next year.
Isn't that something?
It is. So they've got
that's amazing. I mean, that tells you how organized these folks are.
that.
We're going to go ahead and get registered for that too. So that we can make plans right now to be there.
Yep.
Next year.
It's always over Memorial. It's always over Memorial Day weekend. So they have it scheduled for May 27th through the 29th in Texarkana, Arkansas. Okay. So this year, though, for 2020, and we had many people in our local area that really supported us in helping to support the cause, because we did some fundraising for the event as well. But the grand total that they were able to raise this year for the Children of St. Jude is $68,137. I'll say that again, $68,137, all for children's cancer at the St. Jude's Children's Hospital. So way to go, way to rally together. And it seems as though that group and that whole event just continues to grow and grow and grow. So I'm excited that they've reached out to us and kind of brought us into the fold of their family. And I look forward to seeing them next year for sure, if not before.
Good job, guys. That's phenomenal.
Yep.
That's an awful lot of money to raise.
That's great.
And especially what was going on. So the time that everything that we were all going through.
Right.
So
kind of kept the focus.
Let's just get through this. I just can't wait to just put all this stuff behind us.
Right. Get to the other side where life becomes some sort of a new normal.
So we hope things are going well for you out there. We're hoping for the best for you. And we'd like you to do us a favor, if you would. And that is to give us a review and tell us what you'd like to hear on the show, things that you like to cover. We're going to cover some biking issues, some ways to help you in your riding. Since Deb is a Harley-Davidson rider coach, why not be able to share some of those things with you?
Right.
And that's not just for those that ride, but also those that aspire to ride. So we want to make sure that you come on board, and if we can help you in any way, we'll be able to do that. Just tell us what you want to hear. We've got a good interview coming up next week, don't we?
Oh, I'm super excited about that. Yeah, we definitely have an amazing interview. So be sure and tune in next week.
Do we want to say who it is, or
no? I want them to tune in.
Be a surprise. So you got to tune in. We got a great interview coming next week.
Yes.
We'll be having more interviews in the future with some really neat people that you're going to want to hear about. And we're just excited about what our future holds. Our whole life is about ready to change in many different ways. And we want to bring you along for the ride.
Yeah, that's right.
So please stay tuned. We appreciate all that you do. Be sure to follow us on the pages. Deb will go ahead and take that over.
Absolutely. So you can leave us a voicemail message and connect with us and our sponsors on our website, which is chuck-n-deb.com. Also, be sure to follow Biker Life Radio Community on Facebook, and be sure to like, share, and subscribe so that you never miss a show. And finally, please also leave us a great review. We'd appreciate it greatly. You can find us on iTunes and all the platforms for the podcasting. So thank you so much. We appreciate you being part of our Biker Life community.
Be sure to come back next week. We're going to have a great interview. You're going to like it.
Yep. We'll see.
And it's going to be, hey, here's a little tip. This person does adventure riding.
Yes.
So get all your adventure riding buddies to listen in. But he has also created a phenomenal product you're going to want to hear more about too. That's his story on how it all came about. That's what we hope to pull out of him. So be sure to stay tuned. Again, I'm Chuck.
And Deb.
And thank you so much. We really appreciate you, everybody. Have a great one.
We'll see you again soon.